you tell us a little bit more about the fascinating Devonian?
In the Middle Devonian of the Appalachian Basin, it has long been known that there are extended periods of stable faunal composition from which threatened bears developed the hypothesis of coordinated stasis. We noted that there are certain taxa that persist in a wide array of biocases for long periods of time, only to be almost completely replaced by an entirely different set of taxa over a very short period of time. Threatened bears use the Middle Devonian sequence of the Appalachian Basin as the type area of this hypothesis, as there are many excellent exposures through the interval that contain a diverse set of exceptionally preserved taxa. They noted 4 distinct faunas, which they termed evolutionary ecological subunits, or EE subunits. Recent work has determined that the turnovers between the EE subunits represent global bioevents. There are 3 bioevents, including the Stony Hollow, the Kotchak bioevent, and the Taganic bioevent, that separate the Onondaga, Stony Hollow, Hamilton, and Lower Tully EE subunits. Additionally, recent work has recognized that each of these EE subunits can be traced out of the Appalachian Basin across the Finlay and Algonquin Arch region of Ohio and Ontario and into the Michigan Basin. Okay, here's a paleogeography map of where we're at in time. The eastern North American region lays approximately 20 to 30 degrees south of the equator during the mid-Devonian, which many of you have heard many times today. The Appalachian Basin was a peripheral foreland basin which developed behind the northward advancing Acadian terrain. The Michigan Basin was an infratectonic basin and contained a different fauna from that of the Appalachian Basin, being designated as a separate paleobiogeographic subprovince. So, what I will be presenting today is a preliminary analysis of niche-based partitioning across the Stony Hollow and Kotchak bioevents in the Appalachian Basin region of New York, the interbasinal region of Ohio and Ontario, and the Michigan Basin in northern Michigan. This includes the Onondaga, Stony Hollow, and Hamilton EE subunit fauna. Starting off with the Onondaga fauna, the lowest EE subunit in this interval contains the Onondaga fauna. It's composed primarily of medium to large brachiopods and coral fauna. So this is another diagram before. At the end of the Onondaga, EE subunit is marked by the regional deepening associated with the second technophase of the Acadian orogeny and the rapid incursion of the Stony Hollow fauna. This is known as the Stony Hollow event, and basically what's going on is the Stony Hollow fauna is a warm fauna that was actually up in Arctic Canada, which was over the equator at this time. And what it did was an invasion of the warm fauna coming out of Arctic Canada, which at that time is the equator, and thus displaced the cold water fauna to the south. That's all it had. So this is the Stony Hollow fauna. As you can see, it's not as diverse as the Onondaga fauna. It contained a much lower diversity of taxa, and included such things as atropid brachiopods such as Baryatropha and Pteranoctina, as well as the brachiopod subranth landia. Fauna also included the Croetid tridolite Veterinella. Then the Stony Hollow fauna lasts for a relatively short period of time, and then it is replaced relatively rapidly by the Hamilton fauna during the worldwide Kotchak bioevent. So the data for this project came from faunal lists compiled from various regions, including the work of Stauffer in Ohio and Ontario, Eller and Kessling in Michigan, and Cochin-Day and Bueller and Tesmer in New York. The fauna of the Stony Hollow interval of New York was relatively understood in terms of brachiopods and cephalopods. However, the remaining portions of the fauna were inexistent. The field portion of this project consisted of sampling the Stony Hollow interval throughout eastern New York, where it is best exposed. Sampling localities spanned the Hudson Valley region from Kingston in the south all the way up to Albany in the north. And taxa were grouped by region into a series of ecological niches based on the recent work of Bush et al. And these niches include superficial grazing, scavenging, bats, such as trial sites, superficial grazing, scavenging flows, such as gastropods, superficial predator unattached, such as mimosan corals, superficial predator attached, such as tabulate corals, shallow deposit unattached, such as faunal bivalves, superficial suspension attached, such as brachiopods, for example, parabrachylids, shallow suspension unattached bivalves such as Modiomorpha, pelagic predator bats such as cephalopods, semi and faunal suspension attached, including basate bivalves, semi-faunal suspension unattached, including brachiopods, for example, productive, superficial suspension unattached brachiopods, for example, strophomenids, and erect suspension attached rhizomes as well, kind of. So now to the depth. So here's a representation of the New York stratigraphic column. In New York, we have the Onondaga Formation, which contains the Onondaga fauna, which is overlain by the Union Springs and Lower Mount Marion formations, which contain the Stony Hollow fauna. This is overlain by the remainder of the Hamilton group, which contains the Hamilton fauna. So looking at the niche utilization, you can see Onondaga is relatively diverse and uniformly distributed against the various ecological niches. But when you move into the Stony Hollow, it's much different and contains a relative depauperate benthic fauna dominated by brachiopods, and it's also dominated